Amanda Lauer is our second returning guest today. So Amanda is an author. She has a very exciting project going on right now. Actually, starting December 1st, something that just released December 1st. So I am actually just going to let her on, and so we can just hear directly from her what it's all about.
Oh, here we are.
Yeah,
Okay,
Amanda, how are
perfect.
you doing?
Hold on, I gotta turn it up a little bit more.
Okay,
All right, I was like, just got my check helping my husband, but
nice,
it's all good. We found each other now.
awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you back on. I'm really excited to hear about this latest project of yours. So, for those of you who haven't listened to the first initial conversation, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Yeah, so I was a writer for about 2 decades, believe it or not. And well, before that, I was a proofreader for 4 decades, so kind of gives me my age away there. But I started writing novels 10 years ago when I was still a reporter and a journalist for a Catholic newspaper here in Northeast Wisconsin and for a business newspaper. And my first book was called A World Such as Heaven Intended. So it's a Civil War book based on a true story of a gentleman from my area, his great uncle's experiences in the Civil War. And I thought I was one and done. After I wrote that, I thought, okay, I'm just going back to my journalism career, live my life. And within a week, people were asking for a sequel. Once you write one sequel, then you have to have, three, you have to have a set of books, right? And it just kept going from there. So currently I'm on my 10th book, which I can hardly even fathom. And this is a departure from what I've been writing. So up till this point, I've been writing sweet romances, historic romances, and also time travel. One is a romance set in the Highlands in Scotland in the 1600s, and the other is based on experiences in my life in 1974 when I was in seventh grade. It's a time travel. Supposedly, I have a daughter. She was hit in the head playing volleyball. She wakes up in my life in 1974 and has to live life as a seventh grader in the 70s. Anything but groovy is the name of the book, but it wasn't as groovy as she thought it was going to be. But yeah, my latest book is called A Very Chapel Falls Christmas. And this is the first time I've written contemporary rom-com, so romantic comedy. And if you want me to, I'll tell you a little bit about the story and how it came about.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So I happen to be friends with the mayor of a city in my area called Neenah, Wisconsin. And so we've been friends for like 10 years. And I first met her through the Neenah Historical Society because they had me come do a book signing with my Civil War books when the first book came out. And since that time, has become the mayor of the city. And a year ago, on December 7th, she contacted me and asked me if I would like to come see this chapel in one of their cemeteries in Neenah that had been completely refurbished by a very generous family in the area. And she thought it would just be ideal for the cover of one of my Civil War books or any books that are set like in the 1800s because it's a really old chapel. So on a snowy day in December 7th, 2023, we met at this chapel in the cemetery, and it was beautiful. It had been used for storage for years. It was somewhat dilapidated until this family invested the money to refurbish this chapel, and it was beautiful. Took a bunch of pictures, and then after we were done, we were both walking back to our vehicles because we were going to go get some coffee. And Jane Ling, the mayor of Neenah, we kind of looked at each other at the same time and said, wouldn't it be cool to have a Christmas story set in Neenah, Wisconsin? Because it is the most Christmas friendly place you'll ever meet. You walk downtown, it literally is like you're on the set of a Hallmark movie. So with that idea in mind, we went to a local coffee shop and we just started talking. She was just telling me about the different Christmas celebrations and things that they do in their city. And right there, she was literally sketching out the outline for a book for me. She didn't know it at the time, but she just, was telling me some different stories. And I'm like, that's it right there. And since it was approaching Christmas, I didn't have time to work on it till after the holidays. But basically what happened is my middle daughter had her second child that fall. And so I was going to Ohio to help her in the transition as her husband was going back to work after his time off. And so I was there for 3 weeks, and all day long it was super busy with her, 2-year-old and the baby. But at night, from 9 to midnight, I had quiet time. And so I literally wrote this book, the bulk of this story, in 3 weeks' time. And a lot of the information I got from the city's own website, Future Nina, about just all the really cute things they do at Christmas time, like the ugly sweater shuffle, the cookie crawl, the live mannequin displays in the windows where they take, famous movies and they make them into live displays. And they have some of the events are in the winter, but I kind of combined them all into this Christmas story. But it just turned out to be such a fun, whimsical book, and funny too. Apparently, it can be pretty funny when I try. People tell me. Anyhow, so it turned out really well, and I finished writing the book. Around summertime. I mean, just the rewrites and such. And I didn't really know that I could find a publisher this year. So my husband and I were actually looking at going into self-publishing. We actually had a name established for the company, and we were getting guidance from some people who are in the industry. And by chance, I was at a Catholic Writers Guild conference, and then a meetup with other writers from Catholic teen books. So we met up in Niagara Falls, a bunch of us who had never met in person before. Some of us hadn't. Talking to one of the guys in the guild, and he was talking about his agent. And I said, I really should contact him. I had met him once before, and I said, but just to get an idea of what companies would take a Christmas story, contemporary, because I had never written that genre. And he said, yeah, for sure, totally, call him. So I contacted him, and right away he was interested in this book. His name is Joe Geropos. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But he's from Chicago, and he generally does more nonfiction in the Catholic line than fiction. But his deep, dark secret, he loves holiday movies. And he literally loves them so much that he tracks them, like the plots and the actors, and grades them. So he watches, he apparently subscribes to the Hallmark channel for 2 months out of every year just so he can watch all the Hallmark movies. And so he actually asked me after he just wanted to read the first 50 pages or whatever. He reached back out to me and said, why don't you have an agent for your book? And I said, well, I've never had an agent. I've always been published with boutique publishers, and I've never even sought one out because I don't even know what the process is like. So the bottom line is he actually said that he would like to represent me in this book. So it was a super cool thing. I was so happy that he loved the story. He said this story, even though it's called A Very Chapel Falls Christmas, Chapel Falls, in essence, is this little city in Wisconsin, Nina. He said, this is like a love letter to Nina, Wisconsin. He said, I have to visit this city with my wife. It sounds so adorable, and it really is. And so, yeah, he took me on, and then he was published. He was, approaching all the big major publishers. From a lot of them are just in the evangelical line and just major publishers. And so many of them looked at the book over the summer and held on to it. And, one by one, for some reason or other, it didn't work out for them. And so by chance, he reached out to a gentleman who he had been an agent for when his first books came out. And the man's name is Matthew Kelly. And Matthew Kelly, you probably know, is the founder of Dynamic Catholic. Well, Dynamic Catholic publishes mostly nonfiction books in the Catholic arena to be a better version of yourself. That's kind of one of his taglines. And so Matthew actually really loved the story. And it turns out that he and his company, his main company is called Vidant Publishing. But they were starting a new imprint with what they call women's fiction called Feminine Genius. And so they chose my book and one book from another author to be the first 2 books to launch this new imprint. And in having conversations with Matthew, is they just made the determination that they were going to, what he said, crash the book through to get it out for Christmas this year. So this is what he calls a soft launch. Next year they'll do the bigger one, where they try to get it to major retailers and things like that. But what he calls a soft launch is, newsletters to a million of his subscribers talking about my book. It's on his gift guide. It was literally the first book, the top of the list for his gift guide for 2024. So that's what he calls like a soft launch. So this has been a pretty amazing experience. And to tell a little bit more about the book too, is what we did is we took, for the various scenes in the book, real locations in Neenah, real businesses with their real names, and we used them in the book. They were just, it wasn't like product placement like a movie, but they just went places. They went to eat places. They shopped at places. They got coffee at places. We used all the real business names, and Matthew made the most generous offer. He offered to send 40 books to each of the 20 business owners whose businesses were named in the book. And when they got the books, which they did a couple weeks ago, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. They could give them to their employees. They could use them for raffles or social media things. They could sell them full price, $19.95 each, and keep the profit to help their bottom line this time of year. Or what a number of places did is they actually sold the books for full price and donated every penny from the full price to a nonprofit in the area. So there's been many nonprofits that have been getting or will be getting about $800 each from the sale of those 40 books. And they range from the Fox Valley Humane Society, the Neenah Animal Shelter, Boys and Girls Clubs, Friends of Neenah Library, Harbor House, which is a domestic abuse shelter, VITA, which is a free medical clinic for people, men, women, and children in our area. And it's just really, it's so heartwarming to see how many places are benefiting from this book. And another cool thing is one of the businesses in the book, actually, they make stoneware. So Sunset Hill stoneware. And so they made a mug for the book, which has the cover of the book on. It's super cute. And people can buy the mug too if they want a cute little combo gift, the book and the mug. So that's been going over really well. So I've been at all sorts of events in Neenah this December. We're meeting all sorts of wonderful people, meeting the business owners, and seeing a lot of people really excited about this story. And people love the book. It's funny, it's heartwarming. It's everything you would see in one of those great Christmas movies, but probably not as predictable as most. It's a little bit different plot than anything we've seen, and we've seen a lot of Christmas movies. So.
Yeah. Well, how does the process for this book, how has it been different from all of your other books? I'm sure, did it feel faster? It seems like that was a quick turnaround from the conception of the story to now.
Yeah.
What were the differences?
Yeah, absolutely. This was the fastest turnaround of a book I've ever had. I think things differed because, for one thing, it's based on true events. And so a lot of the events are listed online from Future Neenah, which is their Chamber of Commerce. So I just literally went online and got all the information about what do they do at the cookie crawl, what's Luminary Night about, what's the mannequin thing. And so all these different settings of the book were kind of picked from there, which just shows what a cute little city it is anyhow. And I think because I knew I only had 3 weeks at my daughter to watch helping her with the kids, that I knew I had to be religious about writing those 3 hours every night. And there were days too where the baby I'd have him napping next to me, and I'd just put a pillow so the screen didn't, he couldn't see the screen from where he was. And so I'd get another hour or two occasionally, during the day. But the bulk of it was written there. So that was the quickest I've ever written a story. And as far as getting an agent, it's a whole different, getting the agent, of course, I'd never tried for one. And once I got it, that was quick because within 3 days, he probably said yes to the book. But then we had a very short contract. He had about 6 weeks to sell this book. And if it wasn't sold by October 1st, then my husband and I were going to publish it. So he had the incentive to really move hard on this book and move quickly. But he loved it so much that he made other people fall in love with this story too. And why Matthew chose to make this the first book, basically in the feminine genius, I don't know. There's something about it that appealed to him. So he had a whole team behind him, which I've never had this many people on my side pushing for something to go forward. I mean, it's really miraculous. And his editor, Ava Schaefer, who I work with a lot, she's been amazing. The design team, everybody I've worked with has been great. And I've had people on the side helping me too. Ellen Gable, Hercash, she did the first round of editing. She's my original editor from all my Civil War books and my publisher. And then there, Rosanna White, who is a wonderful author, but she's also a great cover artist. She created the first round of the cover, and then Matthew's team took over from there and punched it up a little bit and made it what it is. I guess I can show you since people are probably wondering what does it look like.
Yeah, definitely. Very neat. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's such a fun story. I mean, I think so many people have gotten back to me and have just said it's just so much fun to read. And a lot of people say too, it's like reading a script to a Great American Family movie or a Hallmark movie or something along that line. So ultimately, we hope it will be a movie. I think of all the books I've written, and this is number 10, like four of them I've already had contact with studios about making them into movies, but it's such a slow moving process. And like a movie about Civil War is very expensive, as you can imagine. But this is something, these Christmas movies, they kind of crank them out pretty quickly. So
Hmm.
I think this is the one that has the best chance of actually seeing the light of day. If we find the
Yeah,
right people, it all takes, you
right.
have to find the right people and you have to find money too. It's not, even if it's $1 million movie, it's still $1 million. I mean, for some people, that's
Right.
not much. For most of us, that's a lot.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of potential there. That's really neat. It sounds like this is kind of all of this that you just the story you explained of how this all came to be seems to me like it was a lot of years of putting in the work and but then like the networking that you've done over time.
Yes.
Like explain to me how if someone else, if a younger, Catholic writer wants to do what you're doing, writing books and getting them published the way that you do, like what would you tell that person? Because it just again, it sounds like it's a lot of work and it's a long period of time of just like meeting the right people and having the right things fall into place. How does someone make that happen?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things through the years. And a couple factors is, for one thing, when I was first starting out, even as I was a proofreader and a copy editor for years and working for a large newspaper in our state, I learned how to write articles just because I proofread so many. And I volunteered to start writing articles, even if it wasn't extra pay. I thought this was a really cool endeavor and I wanted to learn how to do it. And I love to read. So I thought, I want to take a chance at writing. So then I did that. And so I even wrote articles through the years where I've never been paid. I would just do it just because I wanted to get the experience under my belt. And then when I was working for the Business News, which is a business newspaper in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I met so many business owners. So it was interesting when it came time to write the story set in Nina. I bet I knew three-quarters of the people personally because I'd written about their businesses. And so I was building those relationships. So when I reached out to all these business owners and asked if they would mind being part of the book, everybody literally said yes on the spot. No one hesitated. They all wanted to be part of it. And it's a lot of building relationships. It's interesting. Everything, the trajectory is always up, but it's kind of a up and down, up and down, and up and down. How you have successes and things aren't going great, and you just keep plugging away and keep doing it. But even the fact that how I started writing for the Green Bay Diocese for their newspaper, The Compass, is I was doing a presentation for middle schoolers at my daughter's school, and another gal was there talking about newspapers, and she happened to be an editor at The Compass, and she met me. We like got along really well, and she offered me a job as a stringer, basically a correspondent for the Compass, which I did for 20 years then. So it's kind of funny how you meet these people along the way and you never know how it's going to come back. And I just always try to be super nice to everybody and friendly and outgoing and try to listen when people talk. And I always loved being part of journalism too because I love learning everybody's stories. But it's interesting how all these stories weave their way into my book too, into all my books. I mean, there's so many stories, particularly about my life too, but you weave them into the story, into your books, and but also so many people in my life, little bits of them are woven into my stories as well.
That's amazing to hear. So, um, What's been the biggest takeaway like from this experience with this specific book, um, that you maybe learned that you're like, man, I like, if I could just tell like a younger version of me this, like maybe I would have unlocked something sooner. Um, Anything like that come out of the past year experience?
I think the biggest takeaway is it's okay to swing for the fences because you never know. It might just happen. Like a year ago, I wouldn't have even approached Matthew Kelly, even though I knew him because I had interviewed him for work years ago. I never would have even thought of talking about this because I knew that he did nonfiction. I would have never even thought about it. Um, it's kind of a funny story because years ago, our daughter was a Make-A-Wish child. She has two incurable blood diseases. She's doing all right now. But when the wish granters came to our house, they said, what is your wish? She was 16 at the time. She said, I want to go on a shopping spree. And she said, and the lady said, wish bigger. She said, I want to go on a shopping spree to the Mall of America. They said, wish bigger. I want to go on a shopping spree to New York City. They said, wish bigger. I want to go to London for my 17th birthday. Well, like where that came out, I have no idea. She never mentioned it to me. That's exactly what happened. Our whole family, all my husband and myself and our four kids, we all went to London for her 17th birthday, which was the most amazing trip ever. And that has always stuck with me, wish bigger, wish bigger. And so when I was first talking to Joe, my agent, about this, it's like, what would be your wish for this book? And I'd be like, oh, it would be great to have the book published by a secular publisher so it gets to more people beyond the Catholic sphere, to more Christian readers and such, because that's a bigger audience. He's like, wish bigger. I want to be with one of the biggest ones. He's like, wish bigger. I want Matthew Kelly to publish my book. And it's funny that God listens to these things. I think we're not wishing as big as we should be. That's kind of my takeaway from this. So maybe other people, you got to wish a little bigger. And it's kind of funny because, and I said this to my agent, and I was with Matthew a few weeks ago in his office in Kentucky, and I said, I know this is a crazy number, but say I could make $1 million selling books for the biggest publisher in the world or something. Or I could make half that amount and publish with Matthew Kelly and open the door for so many other Catholic writers who are looking for a publisher who do fiction, women's fiction in particular. I said I would take half to be able to help, even if it's 10 writers or 100. I mean, it would be amazing if hundreds of writers could actually get into this business because I kind of help open the door crack for them.
Definitely. That's amazing. I mean, to kind of trailblaze this area, because you said you're one of two books that's starting in this. I mean, what do you call it? An imprint?
It's an imprint. It's their new. So Vidant is their main. It's obviously Dynamic Catholic. When I actually went to his office in Kentucky, it's a huge building. So one whole side is Dynamic Catholic, which is a nonprofit. The other side is Vidant Publishing, which is for profit. And Vidant does all sorts of books. They have 200 authors under that name. But then we have this little tiny feminine genius that has me and one other lady who I haven't met. I haven't read her books, but I've looked them up. I mean, they look interesting, but they're all on his Christmas list. You can check it out.
Gotcha. So to that point, where can people go ahead and go get your book right now?
You can go to Amazon.com or you can go to Barnes & Noble. Or if you want to see everything I have, probably the easiest thing is to go to my website, amandalauer.com.
Got it. Okay. I'm gonna link that below too. Congratulations. This is super exciting. It was just good to catch up with you and hear about this latest book. I definitely want to pick up a copy and spread the word. So yeah, best of luck with continuing with this book and maybe more and maybe a movie. And yeah, just thanks for all you do and just inspiring young writers, young women writers especially. So, but yeah, thank you for sharing, Amanda.
You are so welcome. Thank you for inviting me to be part of your podcast today.
Absolutely. Have a blessed Advent and a Merry Christmas.
Same to you. You take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.